I'd like to just begin by welcoming you all to Pacific Northwest meditation. I want to honor and welcome each of you. So whether you are just beginning or have been walking the path for years, I want to let you know that your presence matters here, and we're grateful you are here, and that we come together to share in this collective practice of liberation. We welcome people of every age, ethnicity, cultural heritage, and religious background. We welcome people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, all socioeconomic groups, and all abilities. I also want to acknowledge the fullness and richness of your identity, including dimensions I may have not named aloud, and to honor the many intersecting ways we each experience the world. So we gather here today to practice and study not just for our own awakening, but for the benefit of all beings and this living earth. We recognize the suffering caused by prejudice, power, privilege, and systems of oppression. Together, we aspire to do no harm. We commit ourselves to dismantling barriers that create separation and suffering, knowing that our own liberation is inseparably tied to the liberation of all. With mindfulness and loving kindness as our guides, we work to create a safe space where everyone feels respected and truly welcome. So that is our hope. And we recognize that this is a dynamic, evolving process that requires continual listening, learning, and care, especially towards voices that have been historically marginalized. Our shared leadership embraces the responsibility to foster policies and practices that support true inclusion. And we know that it takes heartful engagement of every Sangha member to help create and sustain a community that reflects the Dharma we aspire to embody. So I would like for us to take a moment now to pause and honor and acknowledge the indigenous peoples of this region. These include the Willamette, Clackamas, Multnomah, Tualatin, and many tribes and bands now part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ron. We recognize the Cowlitz, the Confederate Tribes of the Grand Ron and Siletz, and the many Native communities who have lived along the Willamette and Columbia rivers and throughout the Cascades since time immemorial. And we remember that Portland is still home to many diverse Native communities. We honor all Indigenous peoples of the past, present, and future. And let us take a moment to extend a deep gratitude for their continued presence, wisdom, and resilience. Land acknowledgements are just one small step towards disrupting the legacy of colonization. They are the beginning of a much larger conversation and a call to right relationship, learning, and action. We also acknowledge the labor and sacrifices of those who came to these lands under vastly different circumstances. We recognize settlers and immigrants, including Japanese and Chinese laborers who helped build the infrastructure of this country. We hold with reverence those who were brought here involuntarily and whose unpaid labor formed the foundation of the American economy. So this living acknowledgement of Black labor is a statement of respect, grief, and gratitude. We honor the countless lives lost during the Middle Passage and the many who were beaten, lynched, or those who will continue to suffer while courageously fighting for freedom and justice today. So to speak this history is to acknowledge its ongoing impact. And it is a call to increase awareness and to honor the enduring contributions of Black Americans, especially in the face of a history that has too often been distorted or silenced. We recognize the Asian ancestors of our Buddhist tradition. Many of the early Buddhist communities that face racism, discrimination, and cultural erasure, and yet they persisted. Their teachings and resilience continue to shape the Dharma landscape in North America. So it is of a particular importance to name and honor these ancestors, especially those from the Theravada tradition. The Theravadas have preserved the teachings of the Buddha through the Pali Canon for over 2,000 years, offering us a path grounded in insight, ethics, and liberation. So let us take a moment to express our deep gratitude to the immigrant communities and Asian teachers, past and present, who brought and sustained the Dharma in the West. We walk this path because of their generosity and perseverance. And I'd like to share some community guidelines. We invite you to help us maintain a welcoming and respectful space for all by following these simple guidelines. Out of care for those with sensitivity, we strive to be a scent-free space. For those with neurodiversities or anyone seeking for quiet, we offer a peaceful garden space through the door beside the elevator. If you need additional support to feel comfortable or engaged, please don't hesitate to speak with me or put it in the chat. If you have a hard time hearing me, those of you on Zoom or in person, please signal and let me know. We're committed to cultivating a space of safety and inclusion. So racist, homophobic, transphobic, non-binary, exclusionary, ableist, or otherwise harmful language is not accepted. As a Sangha, we gently call each other in when something difficult is said, supporting both protection and learning. We aim to listen and speak with mindfulness and open hearts. And when we go into a sharing time, I invite you to introduce yourself with your pronouns if you feel comfortable to do so. Pronouns can be an important part of someone's expression, and we want to respect and include all gender identities. So now I'd like to have us recite the Refuges from the Manzanita village. I'll repeat each phrase, and then if you could repeat it back, so it'll be a call and response. And for those of you on Zoom, I'm going to share it on the screen here. Is that on one of the sheets? Yes, yep. It's it says taking the refuges and the 5 trainings. Yep. Right, so in order to honor the lineage of the Buddha's teachings and the aspiration of all beings for happiness and freedom, we take the following 3 refuges. So if you would please repeat after me. In search of freedom for myself and all beings.
In search of freedom for myself and all beings.
I go for refuge in the Buddha.
Go for refuge in the Buddha.
And the possibility of developing a more awakened heart.
And the possibility of developing a more awakened heart.
In search of freedom for myself and all beings.
In search of freedom for myself and all beings.
I go for refuge in the Dharma.
Go for refuge in the Dharma.
and resolve that I will deepen my experience
and resolve that I will deepen my experience
and understanding of its wisdom that is wider than all the oceans.
and understanding of its wisdom that is wider than all of the oceans.
In search of freedom for myself and all beings,
Search for freedom for myself.
I go for refuge in the Sangha
And go for refuge in the Sangha.
in order to create the conditions of peace, kindness, and interconnection
In order to create the conditions of peace, kindness, and interconnection
in our progression towards freedom in all of our communities.
progression towards freedom in all of our communities.
I go for refuge in this triple gem of our spiritual practice
I go for refuge in the spiritual gem of our spiritual practice
for the benefit and liberation of myself, my loved ones,
for the benefit and liberation of myself, my loved ones,
those whom I do not know or have difficulty with, and all beings in all worlds, in all directions.
and all beings in all worlds, in all directions.
With the intention to provide safety and peace in our time of practice together, the 5 householder precepts are taken as worded by Manzanita Village. Please repeat after me. Aware of the violence in the world and of the power of non-violent resistance,
Aware of the violence in the world and the power of nonviolent resistance.
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations,
Stand in the presence of ancestors, the earth, and future generations.
and vow to cultivate the compassion that seeks to protect each living being.
Vow to cultivate the compassion that seeks to protect each living being.
Aware of the poverty and greed in the world,
Aware of the poverty and greed in the world,
and of the intrinsic abundance of this earth,
and of the intrinsic abundance of this earth.
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations,
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations.
and vow to cultivate the simplicity, gratitude, and generosity that have no limits.
Vow to cultivate the simplicity, gratitude, and generosity that have no limits.
Aware of the abuse and lovelessness in the world,
Aware of abuse and lovelessness in the world,
and of the healing that is made possible when we open to love.
and of the healing that is made possible to be open to love.
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations,
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations.
and vow to cultivate respect for the beauty and erotic power of our bodies.
And all to relate to respect for the beauty and erotic power of our bodies.
Aware of the falsehood and deception in the world,
Aware of the falsehood and deception in the world,
and of the power of living and speaking the truth.
and of the power of living and speaking the truth.
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations,
Stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and the future generations.
and vow to cultivate the ability to listen
Vow to cultivate the ability to listen,
and clarity and integrity in all I communicate by my words and actions.
clarity and integrity in all I communicate by my words and actions.
Aware of the contamination and desecration of the world,
Aware of contamination and desecration of the world,
and of my responsibility for life as it manifests through me.
and responsibility for life as it manifests through me.
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations,
I stand in the presence of the ancestors, the earth, and future generations.
and vow to cultivate discernment and care in what I take into my body and mind.
And vow to cultivate discernment and care in what I take into my body and mind.
Thank you for joining me. You hear the sounds of the bell. Letting the words land. And now we'll transition into our time of practice. So I invite you to take a moment to check in with your body and invite in that curiosity of how you will practice cultivating mindfulness in this time. So whether you're choosing to sit on a chair or on the floor, or to stand or to lie down, take a moment to arrive, get comfortable. Really making this practice your own. Sometimes we put our practice into a box, believing that it should look some particular way. But when we really tune into the wisdom within our body, it might tell us to sit or to assume some other shape that feels more comfortable and supportive. Could our posture offer us a sense of nourishment, relaxation, maybe a posture that feels easeful? And as you arrive, maybe inviting in some movement, stretching the neck, rolling the shoulders. What would be an expression of loving kindness? And maybe adjusting your posture. And then at some point, there is this determination and this resolve that however the body is good enough. So we let go of the preoccupation with the body. And really, the key in being able to arrive into that stillness comes not by holding up any particular kind of posture, but it's by softening, letting go. It's returning back home to ourselves and giving ourselves permission to be at ease. And at any time throughout this practice, if you need to change posture, know that you're always in choice. quietly and gently shifting, but continuing to cultivate that energy of mindfulness that is moment to moment with whatever's in front of you. Notice the impulse to move. Notice liking and disliking. And then when we shift to mindfulness, there is this intention to move rather than the impulse to move. So let yourself be guided by the intention. And let yourself settle in with this intention to dwell in the present moment. So I will offer a few anchors and maybe choosing one that feels simple and easy to be with, or maybe an anchor that I've not mentioned that might be more supportive for you today. So we begin by anchoring our awareness to the body. Notice the body in its posture. Feel the contact points of where the body presses against the chair, the cushion, or the floor. Feel your body being held by the surface below you. Can you allow the body to sink in, letting all the tension melt into the surface below? Relaxing the shoulders, the neck, the spine, softening the belly, the arms, the hands, the legs, and all the muscles in the feet. Maybe your eyes are cast downwards, or maybe eyes are closed if that feels comfortable. But let your eyes rest. And you might choose to anchor your attention here to the tactile sensations, or maybe bringing your awareness to sounds. Letting the sound in your environment bring you back to the present moment. Letting go of concepts and ideas of sounds. We're not trying to label sounds, we're just hearing sounds. Sounds coming through the ears. Sounds coming and going. You might choose to stay here, remembering that sounds are to be included into our experience, included into our practice, rather than it be separate and it shouldn't be there. Welcoming sounds. You might choose to anchor your awareness to the breath, breathing in and breathing out, directly experiencing each in-breath and each out-breath. Feeling the sensations of breathing. Feel the aliveness of the breath throughout the body. Notice the chest rising and falling, the belly expanding and contracting. Paying close attention to this process. Coming home to the breath, our constant companion in this life. generating this attitude of friendliness, that is open and interested in what is here. However the mind is, however the body is, all is welcomed here. Not trying to get somewhere or do something. We are stopping, looking deeply, and being. Being with things exactly the way they are. And awareness, rest, rest, and listen deeply. Noticing the arising and passing away of all phenomena. Not holding on to anything, allowing, letting things come and go, sounds, sensations, thoughts, and feelings, just like we would meet and greet the breath and let it go. Softening to sensations. Softening around the edges. And generating the appropriate amount of energy and effort to be alert, awake, and interested. Returning back to your intention, the intention to dwell in the present moment, the intention to be at home within your body, to experience the life that is here now. Letting in and letting go, letting in and letting go. Anything, anything that comes into the field of awareness can bring us back to presence, and support us in returning back to ourselves, back to that space within, that island within. Your meditation comes to an end. I'd like to invite you to join me in this chant. So we're gonna chant the four boundless qualities. You're welcome to join in to listen and let the words chant what power to the chant. When we chant the Buddha's teachings, how we can benefit from it is in remembering these words so that they arise in the mind in those moments and we can recall them as needed. So for those times when we need the teachings to bring us back to our center, bring us back to remembrance, the chants help us. So there's a translation, a more recent translation, where the word mind is replaced with the word heart. But here in this, for the purpose of our own chanting and ease in our chant, we'll stick with this translation of the word mind for now. Now let us make the four boundless qualities shine forth. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with compassion. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with gladness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with gladness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. What's here for you now as you heard these words and you're reminded of perhaps the intention of our practice and of this aspiration and how these qualities lead us into this path that we're on. So maybe we'll take a 5-minute break if everyone would like to take this time to maybe stretch your legs. I invite you to continue to cultivate mindfulness as you transition into movement if you choose to do that. And that each moment that we are with whatever's in front of us, we cultivate this energy that is awake, alert, present, and along with this, there's this quality of love and kindness and care. So we'll return in at 5:45, and offer a Dharma reflection on skillful intention and karma. Mhm. Yeah. We'll give it another couple minutes here for those in the room to, those here to arrive back into the room. How's the temperature? Does it feel okay? Or did you want it warmer? What do you think? Because there's the thermostat. Okay, there's a thermostat out there, but I think we're fine now.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. For those of you on Zoom, yes, we'll begin here. So today's topic on how intention and karma are tied to each other is a topic that has been kind of on the top of my mind as something that is commonly asked about when it comes to how we practice mindfulness and how can the function of mindfulness support us in breaking free from the vicious cycle, the karmic patterns that are always operating in the background. Even when we are aware of them, sometimes being aware of them is not enough. Knowing it doesn't make a difference, but what is it that can really help us break free and not repeat, not fall back into those cycles of suffering? So this is the second step or practice on the Noble Eightfold Path. So the first step is right view. So we're also known as wise view. So the word is sama. You translate that as right, wise, skillful, supportive, beneficial. So choosing a word that feels like it resonates with you. So the first step on the path is wise view. And the second step is wise intention or skillful intention. And this, as I reflect on it, and over again, something that I think is so um, such a profound profound approach to how we can change the trajectory of our life is when we can use mindfulness to see and reflect on our intention and really taking that angle of truthfulness where we're looking deeply at our intention. Because there's one part of us maybe that knows what to do, what to say, but then the key is behind what's how we're being, what's that emotional tone behind what we're doing or saying that's driving the karmic results that we're having. So it might be the same action, the same words, but it's that tone and that's the intention. And so inside of our practice, a big piece of this is examining and investigating our intention and being able the importance of being able to tell the truth and really reflect on our motives. That's really the key. And only we know for ourselves what our motives are. Right? So it's not so important that we answer it the right way to someone else, but it's more for ourselves to look inward and reflect to ourselves in those tense situations, in those rough interactions. What was my intention? Or even before we speak or act, what's really driving this? What's really driving this? So it's this angle of looking to see where the intention is unwise, not serving, not helpful, how it might be perpetuating a cycle. And this is the entry point for us to see where we can pivot and shift to skillfulness that could change the results that we have, whether it's in a relationship or in some matters of our life. So that's the change agent, is the willingness to self-reflect, reflecting our intention. This morning on Wake Up Together, the morning meditation group that meets daily, um, I spoke about boundaries. And I'm not a fan of this word. I feel like it's like putting up a wall, creating a barrier, blocking people out. But really, another way, perhaps, to relate and translate this word boundaries is, oftentimes when we think of boundary, sometimes if we look deeply, when we set up a boundary, are we hardening up? Is the heart hardening up? Are we closing ourselves off? Is there a resistance of pushing away? Is there some hostility or anger or hurt that's there? Right, so could boundaries be an act of love to ourselves and an act of love to the other person? Where boundaries are a way to protect the other person from causing harm to us and to themselves. Because when they hurt us, they are hurting themselves, and they are perpetuating that cycle of negative karma. So here, when we look at the intention of boundary, I'll use boundary as an example. When we look at the intention of boundaries, of putting up a boundary, is it skillful? Is it wise? Is it supportive? Is it beneficial? Not just for us, but for everyone involved. So with anything and everything, how we approach it, we always want to look back at the intention behind what is being said, what is being done, right? And once you establish yourself in skillful intention, speech and action, the speech and action that will follow will be dwelling in skillful intention. And in skillful intention, it's free from hostility, free from ill will, free from anger, free from hatred. It will come from a place that is of a warm, pure heart and of a cool mind. And I want to kind of go take a step back here, because when I think of why do we practice skillful intention? It goes back to the view that we have come to see for ourselves. So going back to the conflict of our lives, or the the things that matter to us, when we are experiencing conflict, dis-ease, dissatisfaction, or suffering, or change, that first initial step is recognizing, the suchness of this, that, oh, this is suffering. This is how things are. This is a part of the human experience. And then now we're looking at the source of it. It's rooted in attachment of wanting things to be a certain way, of wanting things to be permanent, and also attachment to self. And it's rooted in wanting things not to change, right? Wanting things to be the same, wanting what's good, not wanting what's unpleasant. So that clinging. And then the other part of our suffering is ignorance. In other words, it's like having a blindfold on. It's forgetting. It's like walking through the dark, and we don't even know we're walking through the dark. So that's suffering caused by being in the dark. And then when we're on this path and we're like clear that how we have been is not working, we have this commitment now to seeing first the right view, and then this commitment to skillful intention. Now we look at, what kind of intention will produce wholesome results, will produce positive karma. And as we were chanting the four boundless qualities, we've heard the words, I will abide. Like there's this, I could act any way right now, but I'm gonna abide in this, and generating this quality within the heart mind of love and kindness, and I'm going to turn away from hostility, turn away from, ill will. And I'm going to continue to abide in this. So that in itself is an intention. The intention to abide in loving kindness, the intention to abide in compassion, that which seeks to understand rather than judge, rather than compare, analyze, assess, and label people and things. We're going to come back to this place where we abide in compassion. So rather than sometimes this way that we are looking outward into the world and he, she, they are like this, they are like that, we pivot towards this skillful view and intention to understand. I seek to understand this person. Over the holiday weekend, I was with a couple of families who are really dealing with some, conflict. And I remember sitting down with uh, the husband, and I remember he began to share with me how angry he was at his wife. And, she had done something to hurt him, something really devastating that hurt him. And he's he's not over it. And he keep talking about how he's done so much for his family and how she's like this, she's like that. And there was a moment where I said to him, do you ever wonder what she might be struggling with right now? What might be going on over there with her? And he paused for a moment. And he said, it never occurred to me to consider why she is the way she is right now. Why is she not able to meet me where I'd like her to meet me? So when we abide in compassion, we're seeking to understand rather than to try to fix and solve and get someone to do something or be a certain way for us. So this is the shift when we work with skillful intention. The intention grounds us in how we're going to be, what we're going to say, what we're going to do. And it can alter our overall experience of a situation that we're in. And this person has been stuck in this for now a number of years now, on and off, forgetting the intention is that I want to be happy, I want a happy marriage, I want a happy family. But forgetting that foundational intention that if this is what I want, this is what I'm committed to, what do I need to let go of to come back to this intention? Seeking to understand, right? So when we forget, mindfulness is remembering, and when we are not mindful, we forget the way it works, the way we can free ourselves up, and we get stuck in these patterns and these habitual ways of thinking, and we get stuck in our delusion. And not only that, we become attached to these delusion, thinking that this is the way, that this is it. If only he, she, they do this, then, things will be better. Then my problems will be solved. And that there was another family I worked with, who also had problems with their grandma. And we wanted her to give an answer, respond to something. And I said, what if instead of you trying to get something from her, what if you contribute this time, contribute to her? and see what happens. So step out of this mode of having an agenda, trying to get something, to just being and offering and contributing, and see what happens. Sometimes we get caught in the particularities of a matter and we lose sight of the intention that's there. And so in this chant, it's coming back to that place where we call, does this action, does this thought, do these words, do they cause harm to myself or others? How do I feel towards the world within me? How am I relating to the world around me? How am I relating to others? So we have a chance to look inwardly and course correct our views, which is where it seems to be the place where once we shape our view, then our intention is now, shaped and changed. So having the wise view, we seek to understand, and we're not trying to gather information to do something about it, but rather to be in the state of getting to know, seeking to understand as a way to rid ourselves of the preconceived ideas, biases, assumptions, stories, and narratives that we already form about something. So again, when we do turn outward, maybe we ask, what might it be like for them? What might it be like for her, for him, for them? And then when we turn inwards to reflect, what's it like for me? How am I really? What is the emotional tone, the feeling tone I'm having around this? So looking inwardly and really being honest with ourselves, and then from there we have something to work with. So as I mentioned earlier, when we pay attention to our intention, this is the way in which we can break free from the vicious cycle. So mindfulness allows us to see our mind, see the patterns, the conditioning of mind, and then be able to see the choices that we have, the ways in which we can respond. But we want to reorient ourselves to skillful intention. And the cultivation of mindfulness gives us the power to see our intention and correct our intention. So on the 12 links of dependent origination, there is a place in which all of this, the karma that we now face, have come to be due to past deeds, past thoughts, past words, so past actions. And then there is a part of it where it's passive, but how we work with it, how we are able to remain mindful and aware of it, can prevent it from being active. So can prevent it from then spilling out, and then we continue to feed and feel it. So it's critical for us to know that through the cultivation of mindfulness of mind, we are directly looking at how we wind up getting ourselves, in these cycles again and again and again. And with the practice of mindfulness of mind and mindfulness of Vedana, which is the feeling tone, there we see our intention. Is there anger here? Is there hostility here? Is there confusion or delusion here? Or is it coming from a place that means well, that is of goodness? Is it coming from the place of love?
Let me ask a question.
Yes.
Um,
Do you want to take the mic?
Oh. Sure.
Mandy?
Everybody, my name's Brandy. I appreciate you sparking curiosity around this topic. And my question is, if in the past there's been karma that rolls over into today, and my intention is more wholesome today, besides fully being in the moment today of how I show up and my decisions, what is it that I can do, or how can I show up to pause old karma
Yeah,
and prevent it from rolling over into the current and the future so I can show up refreshed?
yeah. Wonderful
That's
question.
my question.
Yes. So the first is to remain mindful, right? So this is why practicing mindfulness is critical in changing the trajectory of our lives. Is because when we practice mindfulness, we can be aware of the results that we have, right, due to past deeds and maybe from ancestral karma, environmental karma, uh, all that shapes what we have today. So the first step is recognizing this and not adding to it, which means we accept what is here and we endure it, what's here, right? Because even in that reaction of wanting to push it away or aversion towards it or identifying to it, will feed it and cause it to continue. And then the other part of it is, yes, in the present moment, now, upon seeing this clearly, you know, we orient our intention towards non-harming, ahimsa. So reflecting on actions, words, and thoughts, aligning it towards goodness, right? So that we can let it subside, let it not continue. So, for example, let's say I use the example of someone in our life now who's still causing harm, still, you know, knows how to hurt us, and just is just trouble for our life. And how we meet that person, you know, is recognizing that they are still working through their own, you know, internal formations. And just through seeing this, we decide we're not going to add to this. And one of a skillful thing can be to distance ourselves from them so that it prevents them from causing harm to us and also prevents them from continuing these behaviors, right? Because through 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 speech and through action is where they add on to their karma. It's like now it's just it's letting it build up even more. So when we stop a person from that and when we distance ourselves from them, that's actually, beneficial because now they have no one to, let's say, to yell at or to cause harm to. So it actually supports them. And also it's the wise thing to do for us. Right? So in the present moment, if our intention is rooted in being skilled in goodness, being effective, and in turning towards peace and well-being, then we would ask ourselves, what we're saying, what we're thinking, is this skillful? Is this wise? Is this beneficial? Is this supportive? Is this helpful? Or is it not? Right? Inside of the background of supporting well-being, loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and gladness. And I'll share this. I'll share this example because this is from when the Buddha went back to meet his son Rahula, and this is one of the teachings that he gave to his son. He said, and this is around reflecting on one's actions. Whenever you want to perform a bodily act, you should reflect on it. This bodily act I want to perform, would it lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both? Is it an unskillful bodily act with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection you know that it would lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both, it would be an unskillful bodily act with painful consequences, painful results, then any bodily act of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. But if on reflection you know that it will not cause affliction, it would be a skillful bodily action with happy consequences, happy results, then any bodily act of that sort is a fit for you to do. So he goes on and on, and at the end he says, therefore, Rahula, you should train yourself. I will purify my bodily acts through repeated reflection. I will purify my verbal acts through repeated reflection. I will purify my mental acts through repeated reflection. This is how you should train yourself. So this is what the Buddha taught his son.
So, a typical.
So in a typical person's wording, would that sound something like, if this contributes to helpfulness and healing, I will move forward.
Mhm.
And if this is contributing to any form of hurting, I will retreat.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, so I also think of like formulas for me when I think of karma. So wholesome thoughts, wholesome action, wholesome words leads to wholesome karma, right? Unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome actions, unwholesome words lead to unwholesome karma. So we're always looking at, let's say someone caused harm to us and it creates anger in us. In that moment, now we want to, with mindfulness, we are aware of the anger, and with this intention to be skillful, be wise, we work to dissolve that anger inside of us so that we don't act out. We don't speak from that place because, angry thoughts, angry action, angry words will lead to, negative results, right? It will affect our well-being, first of all. It will affect our peace of mind, our happiness, and then it would also affect the other person. And then we're just now back in that vicious cycle again. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
My question, I'm a Darren, he, him. My question is around anger as an emotion. It- The way that I've been thinking about it lately is that it's telling you something, and it might be something like maybe somebody's not treating you the way you should, or you would like to be treated. And so I think of that as information. And then I've also been learning about nonviolent communication, or a way that you can tell them about how their actions are influencing you and it's making you angry for this reason. And so you can talk about it with them. You don't necessarily have to like be angry with them, but you can say, when you do this, it makes me angry because of these reasons. And they probably don't intend to make you feel that way. And then you can have a conversation about it rather than, getting into some kind of angry yelling match or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's really skillful, and I think it's for us to gauge if that person is in the space to receive that, right? And sometimes they're not. And then in that case, what do we do? How do we resolve it within ourselves, right? Again, in the case where we can't, then we have to turn back to ourselves and recall our intention, recall the path that we're on, the Noble Eightfold Path, this path that is directly leading us to freedom, liberation, and alleviation from suffering, right? This path that promotes well-being and inner peace. And so in that time when we can't, and even if we can, and let's say it lands with them in the wrong way, then what? Right? Then what? Then now it's for us to work out within ourselves, you know, and to recognize that it can end with us, that it can end with us in our practice of stopping and looking deeply, and then working to calm and soothe ourselves, and then to see the nature of how karma is, how we can shift to thoughts of loving kindness, that we can shift to, this part of us that seek to understand how a person became this way and what they might be suffering through that has them not have the ability to connect and resolve this with us, right? Someone shared recently that they've transformed this difficult relationship they're having with us, someone who's going to be their ex-spouse, and it's been extremely challenging for a while now. But through these daily reminder, and I approach loving kindness from various angles in the past, like many months, but how this practice of loving kindness can help us to come from that place where there's just no other way. You know, there's no other way other than this. It doesn't make sense to continue with meanness or to fight. That through loving kindness become a balm for us that heals us, but also supports the other person on their journey. Yeah, so when it's possible, if sharing and about our emotions about it is supportive, is helpful, is beneficial, is wise and skillful, then yes. And if it can promote reconciliation, then yes. But if it can't, if it doesn't, then we know that, okay, it's we can only reconcile it within ourselves. So sometimes it's not a mutual process. Yeah. And we can try, right? We can experiment. And then if it doesn't work, then we work with it within ourselves to find that peace, because truly this practice gives us a sense of agency that there's only so much control we have with everything outside of us, but it's inside of us that we can work to change the landscape internally, to generate the state of mind that is loving and kind and understanding, and there's clarity and And our own ability to free ourselves from suffering is through looking at our attachment, where we want things to be a certain way, and seeing how that attachment causes suffering. And then we get to the place where we realize holding on and wanting people or things to be a certain way just doesn't serve us anymore. And it's exhausting and it's painful. We keep the pain alive when we keep, should be like this, or they should respond like that. So it's in this practice of letting go and of working and turning towards these heart mind qualities that we were chanting. That is where we access, a way to be with all this that becomes the balm for us to be free. Yeah. Thanks for your question.
So simple. It comes down to one simple thing.
Yeah,
It's very simple.
yeah, it is very simple. It is, but it's so hard.
Simple sentence.
Yes, and this is why mindfulness is so important in this whole process. Because when we are aware, so there's like, oh yeah, I know, and then there's this deeper knowing, right? This is right mindfulness. So on the Noble Eightfold Path, right mindfulness is so right mindfulness is the seventh, and then right concentration is the eighth one. And right mindfulness is we reflect and we see things in this way where now we're looking at, okay, with what I am now aware of, how can I be free? How can I alleviate suffering for myself and others? Where is liberation in this? So we can say, yeah, I'm mindful, I'm aware, but right mindfulness is what is the path leading to freedom from suffering? What will keep me in my heart? And what will help my mind stay open and receptive? So it's a practice, of inclining ourselves towards a wholehearted intention. And when we're not there, then we need to go back to our view, right? Where is there delusion? Where do I have a fixed view? Right? So going back to examine our view and course correcting our view so that we see clearly the Four Noble Truths of in life there is suffering, dissatisfaction, and then secondly, seeing the source, the origin of it, right? Where's my 2% in this? And then third, seeing how to stop this, how to put an end to it, which is I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to add fuel to this fire. I'm not going to fight. I don't need to be right. I don't need to be right. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy and peaceful? And then the fourth is that now we're like, all right, I'm on this path. This is exhausting. The fire of anger and, the hardened heart that wants to be right. The part of us that just keep wanting to control everything outside is exhausting, and we realize there's got to be a better way. How can I, be an effective human being? And someone described it this morning. They were like, you said it was easy. They're like, it's like magic. We don't know it until we start to apply it and see it, how it changes our own well-being and how it changes that other person, the spouse, the other, whoever that is. And it's just amazing what happens. It's remarkable what happens when just one person practices. They transform not just their own karma, but even influence the karma of the other person and the people around.
Mhm.
What else? Put the dana information in the chat. And just wanted to share with you a bit about, how our Sangha is growing. And week after week, we just continue to see more friends who have been coming and new folks who are joining us in person on Zoom. And this place has been a quiet reprieve, and it's been a space where people feel held, and it's like just like the way Pacific Northwest Forest holds everything that falls into it, gently and without judgment. Pacific Northwest Meditation Community has been a refuge for many people. And so in recent time now, we're hoping to take a few more steps in our growth. One is to offer an additional sitting group in the Willamette Westland area. And then also to move to a larger room in time. And then to also support, offer fair support to our teachers who give so generously of their time and their hearts, and also including continue to bring in guest teachers from all over the Pacific Northwest. So if you feel that this group has supported you, the Sangha has supported you, and it's helped steady your mind, soften your heart, or provide some clarity or some edge for your spiritual deepening, and if it feels right, you feel moved to, I invite you to contribute to our Sangha. There's a sign here with QR codes, and I posted in the chat. So truly, no amount is too small. Even offering the cost of a cup of tea helps us grow in a way that's sustainable. And also, if contributing financially isn't possible for you right now, perhaps just through your presence or through volunteering to help us set up the room, like greet people or help us with, a skill set that you have, marketing, bookkeeping. We have a couple of people who volunteered and other areas that will help us to expand. So we invite and receive your support. And then also today we have the social hour happening. So it's the first Saturday of the month. So I invite you to stay if you can. Whether you brought something or not, I'd love to chat with you and meet you, get to know you. But thank you for being a part of this community. And it's through your listening, your practice, and your questions that the teachings really come to life because it makes it relevant for our time. Yeah, this is how we are directly dealing with the matters of our life and how we even at times grapple with the teaching or resist it. That's a moment where, the rubber meets the road and we can see like, how do I work with this, with what I have going on right now? And really it's for each of us to turn the teachings over again and again and reflect on it until it's true for us, until we can verify it through our own experience and through our own application of these practices, right? And one of the things that, first drops away when a person experiences some major success on this path is when doubt drops away. Okay, so doubt drops away because oftentimes it's doubt that stops us from applying the practice. We're like, yeah, no, it can't be that way. Like, no. Because it's always been another way. Fighting, let's say, it's always been the response, right? Taking it to court or whatever that is. And it's like, no, you can't be like that. No, Trina, I don't believe you. But so I challenge you to apply the teachings and work with me or with a teacher or guide to help you refine it, to make sure that you're really clear on how you're applying it. Because that's where the difference is. Sometimes we apply it, but it's still coming from our own conditioned mind and our own ways of approaching it. So we need a guide. We need someone there to say, just tweak it a little bit like this and try that. So I'll be, I was launch a mindfulness for the rest of your life mentorship program next year. So it's going to be in the evening, once a week, and there will be practices that are applicable to what everyone is going through in the group, the cohort. And we'll be practicing with other modality, Buddhist modalities, and going deeper on some of these things. And I will also offer talks around things that we cannot expand here due to the time and the structure. And then it'll be a space where you can ask me anything, and also to get support from each other as you hear each other's journeys and shares. It will reflect to you something within yourself that you maybe did not see or forgot, or now are newly aware of, or it shed light on something or deepen something. So that will be next year, the beginning of next year. So if you're interested in that, you can send me an email at trina@wakeuptogether.org. And we've been having so many deep, vulnerable shares and Wake Up Together, and we keep running out of time. So that was kind of initially what the demand that inspired me to start this program. And I think this is all for now. I'll be teaching tomorrow in a practice space at Lighthouse Community Yoga in Southeast. So it's an hour and 15 minutes. It's going to be all rooted in practices. So walking meditation, lying down meditation, sitting meditation, standing mindful movement. And it's a unique space where you will come just to practice, and I will guide you through the practices. And I'm just amazed at how walking meditation has been such a breakthrough for so many people. Has helped them experience the settling of the mind and the body. And some people say healing, feeling a sense of rejuvenation. So it's a big yoga space. So I invite you to join me if you are able to. It's at 7:00, 7 at night on Sundays at Lighthouse Community Yoga. Oh, that's here in Southeast Portland. Yeah.
How long?
An hour and 15 minutes. So we go from 7 to 8:15. Yeah. So you can come in or you can sign up in advance, but there's always room if you just pop in to, be there. And thank you everyone for being here and for joining me in this practice. I'm so happy to see you all, and just honored to be in this space with you. Hey, Andrew, Margaret,
Trina. Thank you.
feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to say goodbye, wave to each other.
Thank you so much.
Everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Take care.
We'll talk. Trina.
Namaste.
And wishing you all well, dear friends. May you be happy and well. We abide in loving kindness. Bye, Kanka. Bye, Mark.
Bye.
Ready for takeoff to infinity and